How can you not talk about this guy? I mentioned how there had already been some clinches of the regular season titles. Duke, of course, has wrapped up that title as well. They have clinched their share of the ACC title after absolutely clobbering Wake Forest on Monday night. Ice, is that Cooper Flagg's final game in Cameron Indoor? I know there were some one more year chants happening at Cameron Indoor, but was that the last that we've seen from Cooper Flagg, at least at Duke?
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, rightfully so. With a player that just entered college basketball with immense expectations and pressure, he certainly has delivered. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the country. They're 17-0 at Cameron Indoor this season. Well, I think I would want to leave that way too. I mean, the one more chance are just, the endearing love of the Duke fans and the crazies that are just letting him know they'd love to have him come back. But he certainly made his impact felt. And at this point in the season, man, I'm just excited to see him in March Madness, honestly. I'm excited to see game in and game out where he knows he has to pull out wins for Duke. You talk about a player that leads them in points, rebounds, assists, blocks. Like, it's ridiculous at this point how important he is to Duke's success. You think a team in the tournament might just say, hey, if we just triple team him and make everybody else beat us, do we have a decent chance? I think you might, but certainly has been an awesome career for him at Duke. And he made it count. I think that's the most important thing about being a player. You got to make every game count. And he really did.
I mean, he's the first freshman in over 30 years to have over 400 points and over 20 blocks in conference play in a season. And you just think about what that means. And it's so hard to be historic at Duke, right? Because there's just so many great players. To me, I understand the one more year, and I love the one more year because as a college basketball fan, I want to see another year. But I also watch the chance happening thinking, man, sometimes you need to change your logic just a little bit, because while we're all going to sit here and lament what it would be like to see Cooper Flagg for another year in college basketball, I think you just got to slow everything down and appreciate every second you got with him while he's in the sport, right? Like, whatever Duke does in the tournament is just going to be an opportunity to see what looks like. I mean, go back to that last game. On one possession, he's got 2 guys in his face, and he throws up a 3 that looks absolutely beautiful and goes in. Then a couple of possessions later, he drives the lane with his non-dominant hand in between 2 people and manages to get that in. Like, it's just, he does everything. And that's going to look beautiful in the NBA. It looks beautiful right now in college basketball. I think this is it for him in my mind. If we're lucky enough that he changes his mind for some reason, well, great. But I think this is just about appreciating the moments that we're getting from Cooper Flagg, because I think they're about to come to an end.
And selfishly, we all want Cooper Flagg to come back to college basketball. How fun would that be? What kind of story would that be? But, from the professional side of things, he's going to the NBA. I would never, if I was in Cooper Flagg's corner and giving him any sort of advice, which obviously I am not, I'm telling him, go to the NBA, make your money. You'll be the first overall pick in the NBA draft and allow all of the fame and the fortunes and the success come your way. But I know when I said that, hey, we're going to talk about Cooper Flagg, we're going to do it every single week, there are probably a fair share of listeners that roll their eyes, that might have a little bit of Cooper Flagg fatigue, the same way when we had Zion watch in the 2018 and 2019 seasons, that it was, every topic on SportsCenter, if it was every topic of every article that we saw on yahoosports.com, and there was probably a decent bit of fatigue, and we see that all the time in sports. We had Tom Brady fatigue. We had Chiefs fatigue. We might have Shohei Ohtani and Dodgers fatigue. It's natural with sports fans, but we do it for a reason. And I think that this is an opportunity for all of those people out there that might be rolling their eyes, talking about, Cooper Flagg and having Cooper Flagg fatigue. Just look at what this kid is doing. At 18 years old, as a freshman, he leads the team, Duke, the number 2 team in the country and one of the favorites to win it all, leads the team in points, leads the team in rebounds, leads the team in assists, leads the team in steals, and leads the team in blocks. He is largely carrying one of the best teams in the country and one of the most competitive seasons that we have seen in this sport. So I understand the fatigue. I understand can we please talk about something else? But we need to take some time and just kind of, look at everything for what it's worth and truly just appreciate what he has been doing. Cooper Flagg has been nothing short of spectacular, Fitz.
But this is also, to go back to a conversation we had last week, one of the advantages the women's game has right now that the men's game just doesn't, because like I'll be the old man on the block for a minute. We all know I'm from Vegas, but like I grew up watching Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon and Greg Anthony and like a Running Rebels team in the like I was a little kid in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think one of the coolest parts of that is when the season ended, all you were thinking about was next year. Man, we got them next year, because you knew back then that these guys were going to play together for a certain amount of time. Like it's just, that's one of the things that right now is we see some of the stars that are transcending in women's college basketball. You get to see them year in and year out. You get to grow with those storylines. It's just a bummer. There's no fix to it. There doesn't need to be a fix. I want Cooper Flagg to go make all of his money. I want him to be an NBA superstar. But as a college basketball fanatic, I feel bummed sometimes that like this is the world we live in. Like we don't get to spend the next 6 months after this season talking about what's Cooper going to look like next year. And oh my God, how do you stop? Like I wish there was a system altruistically in my mind that let us have these guys in the sport more. Cause I think at the end of the day, those storylines, they become the things we gravitate to. I never want to stop a young man from earning his money. Go get yours. But man, like I'm just bummed that we only get 1 year of this. And that's the cycle. When you have the best of the best in college basketball, they will walk away as quickly as possible.
And I think that's kind of the flaw in the system of the one and dones of, you get 1 year of stars. And we talked about this on the show last week, which of course you can find on YouTube and your preferred podcast platform. The reason why there has been so much popularity and so much investment in the women's game, obviously, first of all, it's talent and the fact that it is such a fun sport to watch, but it's also retention. That we've had Paige Beckers for the past 5 years, that we got Juju Watkins being able to take a step forward in year 2 at USC, that we got back-to-back years of excellence from Caitlin Clark when she was at Iowa, that you have so much consistency and so much retention in the women's game that it's easy to fall in love with some of these players year over year over year. But when you only get 1 year of a Cooper Flagg, when you only get 1 year of an insert the next, one and done superstar here, the turnover starts to become a little bit overwhelming, and I think that's where you're starting to see a little bit of a divide between the men's and the women's game. But we get one final regular season game with Cooper Flagg as they hit the road to Chapel Hill, finish out the regular season at North Carolina this weekend. Expect to see another 20-plus point game from Cooper Flagg, because that's just frankly what they do. Now, Duke's tournament hopes, those are obviously very locked up. It is more likely than not, I would be willing to put a lot of money on it, that Duke will be a not the number one overall seed, but a number 1 seed in the tournament.